The Great Hall of Station Meridian was the largest room Taiho had ever seen. It stretched out like a small city, with high ceilings made of glass that showed the stars beyond. Lights floated in the air without wires or poles. The floor was smooth white stone that reflected everything like a mirror. Taiho walked 3 steps behind Ambassador Yuna. This was his place. This was his job. He was her guard, her protector, and he took this duty very seriously. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in wars that most people only read about in history books. But today, he was not here to fight. He was here to stand, watch, and protect. The hall was full of aliens from across the galaxy. Taiho had seen many species in his life, but never so many in one place. The Valori stood in groups near the center of the room. They were tall beings made of living crystal. Their bodies glowed with soft light in colors of blue, purple, and white. They moved slowly and spoke in voices that sounded like music. They believed they were the most beautiful and most important species in the galaxy. They had believed this for thousands of years. The Morok were different. They were large, heavy creatures with bodies covered in living metal. They stood like mountains, barely moving, their eyes glowing red in their dark faces. They were warriors. Their entire culture was built on strength, battle, and honor. They respected power and nothing else. There were other species too. Small ones that floated in the air. Tall, thin ones that walked on 6 legs. Round ones that rolled across the floor. The galaxy was full of life, and today, much of that life had gathered here for the Coalition Summit. The humans were the smallest delegation. Ambassador Yuna walked at the front, her back straight and her head held high. She wore simple black clothes with a silver pin that showed the symbol of Earth. Behind her walked 2 assistants carrying data pads. And behind them walked Taiho. He knew they were looking at him. He could feel their eyes on his armor. His armor was old. The chest plate had 3 long cracks running across it. The left shoulder piece was held together with metal wire and emergency repair paste. Burn marks covered the back, black and deep. The helmet had a dent on the side that had never been fixed. The whole thing looked like it had been through 100 battles and had barely survived any of them. It had. A Valori near the entrance made a sound that was like laughing and singing at the same time. He was tall, even for his kind, and his crystal body glowed bright blue. His name was Kethvos, and he was one of the most important Valori in the galaxy. "Look at this," Kethvos said to the others around him. His voice carried across the hall like music. "The humans have sent a broken soldier to protect their speaker. How fitting. Their species is as cracked as his shell." The other Valori laughed. Their laughter sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Taiho said nothing. He kept walking. A Morok commander named Grathol stepped forward. He was enormous, nearly 3 times the size of Taiho. His metal body was polished and perfect, without a single scratch or mark. "Perhaps the human cannot afford proper equipment," Grathol said. His voice was deep like thunder. "Their species is known for their poverty. Poverty of resources. Poverty of spirit. Poverty of everything." More laughter. This time from the Morok, too. Ambassador Yuna did not react. She had been a diplomat for 20 years. She had learned to ignore insults. She had learned that words were just sounds, and sounds could not hurt her. But she also knew something that the others did not. She knew why Taiho wore that armor. She had read his file, all 700 pages of it. The summit began with formal greetings. Each delegation stood and announced their presence. The Valori spoke first, of course. They always spoke first. Then the Morok. Then the others, in order of their power and importance. The humans spoke last. "The United Human Federation greets the Coalition," Ambassador Yuna said. Her voice was calm and clear. We come in peace, seeking fair trade and mutual respect. Mutual respect, a Valori delegate repeated. He looked at Taiho and smiled. Yes, I can see how much you respect yourselves. The first day of the summit was long and boring. They talked about trade routes. They talked about border disputes. They talked about resources and taxes and agreements that had been made 100 years ago. Taiho stood behind Ambassador Yuna through all of it. He did not move. He did not speak. He barely seemed to breathe. But he watched everything. He saw how the Valori looked at the humans with disgust. He saw how the Morok ignored them completely. He saw how the other species whispered to each other when the humans spoke, as if their words were not worth hearing. Humanity was still new to the galaxy. They had only been part of the coalition for 50 years. In that time, they had fought 3 wars just to survive. They had lost colonies. They had lost millions of people. They had been pushed to the edge of extinction more than once. But they were still here. That was what the other species did not understand. They saw humans as weak because humans were small. They saw humans as poor because human technology was not as advanced. They saw humans as broken because humans showed their damage. They did not understand that showing damage was not the same as being defeated. During a break in the summit, Taiho stood against the wall while Ambassador Yuna spoke with her assistants. A group of young Valori walked past him. They were laughing and pointing at his armor. "Look at the cracks," one of them said. "I wonder if he got them from falling downstairs. Maybe his armor is as old as his species," another one said. "Both of them should be thrown away." They laughed and walked on. Taiho watched them go. His face showed nothing. But inside, he remembered. He remembered the battle where his chest plate had cracked. The plasma fire that had burned through 3 layers of armor. The moment he had thought he was going to die, alone on a burning ship, surrounded by enemies. He remembered the fight where his shoulder piece had been torn. The Morok warrior who had nearly killed him. The blade that had cut through metal and flesh alike. He remembered every mark on his armor. Every crack. Every burn. Every dent. They were not signs of weakness. They were proof that he had survived. The first day ended with no progress made. The delegations returned to their ships and quarters. Tomorrow they would try again. Tomorrow there would be more talks, more arguments, more insults hidden behind polite words. Ambassador Yuna walked back to the human quarters with Taiho behind her. When they were alone in the hallway, she finally spoke. "I'm sorry," she said, "for what they said about you." "Do not be sorry, Ambassador," Taiho replied. His voice was quiet but steady. "Their words cannot hurt me. Still, it was wrong." Taiho was silent for a moment. Then he said, "They laugh because they do not understand. They see my armor and think it shows weakness. They do not know what it really shows." "What does it show?" Yuna asked. Taiho looked at her. His eyes were dark and calm like deep water. "It shows that I am still standing," he said. "That is what matters. Not the cracks. Not the burns. Just that I am still standing." Yuna nodded slowly. She was beginning to understand. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy thought humans were broken. The galaxy was about to learn how wrong it was. Taiho stood in his usual place, 3 steps behind Ambassador Yuna. The great hall was full again. The Valori glowed in their colors of blue and purple. The Morok stood like metal statues. The other species moved and talked and watched. And they all looked at Taiho. Word had spread overnight. The human guard with the cracked armor had become a joke. Delegates whispered about him when they thought he could not hear. They pointed at him when they thought he was not looking. Some of them did not even try to hide their mockery. A small floating creature drifted past Taiho and made a clicking sound with its mouth. "Broken," it said in a high voice. Broken human, broken armor, broken species. Tai-Ho did not respond. He stood still and watched. The morning session was about trade agreements. Boring talk about taxes and shipping routes. Tai-Ho listened with half his attention while the other half stayed focused on his real job, watching for danger, looking for threats, protecting Ambassador Yuna. During a short break, a young Valuri approached the human delegation. His name was Sirtal, and he was the son of a powerful Valuri lord. His crystal body was perfect and flawless, glowing with bright white light. He walked with the confidence of someone who had never been told no in his entire life. Behind Sirtal, a group of other young nobles followed. They were from different species, but they all had the same look in their eyes. The look of people who wanted to see a show. Human soldier, Sirtal said loudly. His voice was clear and musical, designed to carry across the hall. Many delegates turned to watch. I have a question that puzzles our kind. Perhaps you can help me understand. Tai-Ho did not move. He did not speak. Why do you wear that garbage on your body? Sirtal continued. Is it some kind of ceremony? A mark of shame among your people? Do humans punish their soldiers by making them wear broken equipment? The crowd laughed. The sound echoed through the great hall. Ambassador Yuna stood up from her seat. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. Delegate Sirtal, my guard's equipment is not your concern. Perhaps we should return to the matter of the frontier accord. No. Sirtal stepped closer to Tai-Ho. His light grew brighter, more aggressive. I wish to understand. We have heard stories of human stubbornness, but this seems like simple stupidity. Unless... He paused and smiled. Unless this is the best your failing species can provide. The laughter grew louder. From across the hall, Grathel the Mora commander added his voice. He asked you a question, creature. Even beasts can speak. Or are humans too primitive for that as well? More laughter. More mockery. In the upper gallery, Ambassador Dohwan watched with worried eyes. He was the senior human diplomat at the summit, an old man who had served humanity for 40 years. He knew Tai-Ho. He had read his file. He knew what kind of man stood below in that cracked armor. And he knew what was about to happen. Sirtal stepped even closer to Tai-Ho. They were nearly face to face now. The Valuri towered over the human, his crystal body glowing with power and pride. Remove him from our presence. High Luminary Kethvos called out from across the hall. His broken shell offends the dignity of this summit. He is an insult to every species here. You have no authority to make such demands, Ambassador Yuna said firmly. Lieutenant Tai-Ho is a member of my delegation. He has every right to be here. Rights? Sirtal laughed. What rights do broken things have? What rights do the weak have? In the real galaxy, only the strong have rights. And humans. He looked at Tai-Ho with disgust. Humans are not strong. The hall fell quiet for a moment. Everyone was watching. Everyone was waiting. And then Tai-Ho spoke. It is all right, Ambassador. His voice was soft, gentle, even. It did not match his scarred face or his battle-worn armor. It was the voice of a man who had seen too much to be angry at small things anymore. Yuna turned to look at him. Lieutenant? If the delegates find my armor offensive, Tai-Ho said slowly, I will remove it. The hall stirred. This was unexpected. This was interesting. Sirtal's smile grew wider. Yes, remove it. Let us see what a human really looks like beneath all that broken metal. Let us see how weak you truly are. Tai-Ho reached for the first clasp on his chest plate. It was a simple mechanism designed for emergency removal. He pressed it, and there was a soft hiss as the seal released. Lieutenant, Ambassador Yuna said quietly, you do not have to do this. "I know," Taiho replied. "But I want to." He pressed the second clasp. Another hiss. The Valori watched with glowing eyes. They expected to see weak pink flesh beneath the armor. They expected to see the soft, fragile body of a human. They expected to laugh even harder. The Morok watched with curiosity. They had fought humans before. They knew humans were not completely weak. But they also believed that humans were inferior, smaller, weaker, less evolved. The other species watched with various expressions. Some were amused. Some were curious. Some were already preparing their jokes. Taiho pressed the third clasp. Ambassador Dowan in the upper gallery closed his eyes. He knew what was coming. He had seen the medical reports. He had seen the photographs. He knew what Taiho's body looked like beneath that armor. The chest plate fell away, and the hall went silent. Surtal's smile disappeared. His crystal body flickered, the light inside him dimming with shock. Grathol, the Morok commander, took a step back. His red eyes widened. His metal hands clenched into fists. High Luminary Kefos made a sound that was not laughter. It was something else entirely. Taiho's chest was covered in scars. Not small scars. Not the kind of marks that come from accidents or minor injuries. These were war scars, battle scars, survival scars. A massive burn covered the left side of his chest. The skin was twisted and rough, clearly healed from plasma fire. 3 parallel lines crossed his ribs, deep and old, the marks of Morok blades. Small circular scars dotted his shoulders and arms, the distinctive pattern of Valori crystal shrapnel. A long, jagged scar ran from his collarbone to his hip, the kind of wound that should have killed any normal person. Taiho removed the shoulder pieces. More scars. The distinctive marks of torture prods on both shoulders. The rough texture of skin that had been burned and healed and burned again. He removed the gauntlets. His hands were not fully human anymore. Parts of them were synthetic, the fingers rebuilt with metal and artificial muscle. The work of battlefield surgery. The work of doctors who had saved his life with whatever tools they had available. Taiho stood before them, his upper body exposed. He was not tall. He was not large. By Valori or Morok standards, he was tiny. But his body told a story. It told a story of 30 years of war. 30 years of fighting against species that were bigger, stronger, and more advanced. 30 years of being told that humans could not survive, would not survive, should not survive. And yet, he was. Still standing. Surtal could not speak. His perfect crystal body suddenly seemed fragile compared to the scarred flesh before him. He had never been hurt in his life. He had never felt pain. He had never known what it meant to survive. Grathol stared at the scars on Taiho's body. He recognized some of them. The blade marks were Morok work. High-quality Morok work. The kind of wounds that only the greatest Morok warriors could inflict. But the human had survived them. The human had healed. The human was still alive. The hall remained silent. No one laughed. No one spoke. No one knew what to say. Taiho looked at them all with calm, patient eyes. "You wanted to see what was beneath my armor," he said. His voice was still soft, still gentle. "Now you see." He bent down and picked up his chest plate. The cracked, burned, broken chest plate. "Every crack in this armor is a battle I survived," he said. "Every burn mark is an enemy who thought they had killed me. This armor has been destroyed and repaired more times than I can count. And yet, I still wear it." He held the chest plate in his hands like it was something precious, something valuable, something more important than all the perfect, shining armor in the galaxy. "Do you want to know why?" he asked. No one answered. No one could answer. Taiho looked at Siratal, looked at Grathol, looked at all of them. Because this armor and I are the same, he said. Broken, repaired, broken again, repaired again, but still here, still standing, still fighting. He began to put the chest plate back on. You can laugh at my cracks if you want, he said. But remember this, cracks mean that something tried to break me and failed. Every crack is proof that I survived. Every scar is proof that I am still here. He fastened the clasps one by one. The armor settled onto his shoulders. The broken, cracked, imperfect armor. And somehow, it no longer looked broken at all. It looked like the armor of a warrior who could not be killed. Ambassador Yuna watched her guard with new eyes. She had known he was strong. She had known he was experienced. But she had not truly understood until now. This was what humanity was. Not perfect. Not unbreakable. Not invincible. But impossible to keep down. Impossible to destroy completely. Impossible to defeat forever. Sirtal turned and walked away without saying a word. His group of noble friends followed him in silence. The show they had come to see had not been the show they expected. The summit would continue. There were more talks to be had, more agreements to discuss, more politics to navigate. But something had changed in the great hall of Station Meridian. The laughter had stopped, and it would not return. The silence in the great hall stretched on for a long time. Taiho had put his armor back on, but the image of what lay beneath would not leave the minds of those who had seen it. The scars, the burns, the rebuilt hands, the evidence of a lifetime of war written on human flesh. High Luminary Kethvos was the first to speak. His voice was different now. The musical mockery was gone. In its place was something that sounded almost like respect. Human, he said slowly. Those marks on your body, some of them are Valuri crystal wounds. I have seen such wounds before. They are fatal wounds. No one survives them. Taiho looked at the High Luminary with calm eyes. Many did not survive them, he said. I did. Kethvos stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to his advisors and spoke in the Valuri language, too fast for the translator to catch. Whatever he said made them all look at Taiho with new expressions. Fear, wonder, something in between. Grathol, the Morok commander, stepped forward. His massive metal body moved with surprising quietness. He stopped a few feet from Taiho and looked down at the small human. The blade marks on your chest, Grathol said. They are Morok wounds. High warrior wounds. Those marks come from the sacred blades of our greatest fighters. Such wounds are meant to kill. They are designed to kill. In 10,000 years of war, I have never seen anyone survive 3 high warrior cuts. I have survived more than 3, Taiho replied simply. Grathol's red eyes flickered. He pulled up a display from his armor, a small screen that floated in the air before him. His fingers moved across it, searching for something. The hall watched in silence. The other delegates had stopped pretending to have their own conversations. Everyone was focused on the small human and the giant Morok. I am searching our battle records, Grathol said, looking for humans who have faced high warriors and survived. He paused. His metal face did not show expression, but his voice changed. The records are very short. There are only 7 humans in our entire history who have survived combat with a high warrior. He looked at Taiho. Your face is in the records. You killed High Warrior Gormak at the Battle of the Broken Moon. You killed High Warrior Deathvar during the Siege of Station 9. You killed. Grathol stopped. His voice became very quiet. You killed Warlord Kethmor, my blood sire, the greatest Morok warrior of his generation. The hall went even more silent, if that was possible. Taiho nodded slowly. Yes, I killed Kethmore. It was during the defense of Colony Mirren. He led the assault personally. We fought for 3 hours in the burning ruins of the settlement. He nearly killed me 7 times. I still have the scars. He was the greatest warrior our people have ever produced, Grathol said. He was undefeated for 300 years. He was defeated on Mirren, Taiho said. There was no pride in his voice. No celebration. Just a simple statement of fact. I was there. I remember. Grathol was quiet for a long moment. The Morok valued strength above all else. They valued combat and honor and the glory of battle. To kill a warlord was the greatest achievement any warrior could claim, and this small, scarred human had done it. How? Grathol asked. How did you defeat him? He was faster than you, stronger than you. His armor was worth more than your entire species' fleet. How did a human kill a Morok warlord? Taiho thought about the question. He thought about the battle. He thought about the flames and the blood and the endless fighting. He thought about his wife and daughter, hiding in the shelters below the colony. He thought about the moment when Kethmore's blade had pierced his side, and he had thought he was going to die. Your warlord was faster than me, Taiho admitted. He was stronger. His armor was better. His weapons were better. By every measure, he should have won. Then how? Grathol pressed. He got tired, Taiho said. After 3 hours of fighting, even the greatest Morok warrior gets tired. His swings became slower. His reactions became delayed. He started making mistakes. And you? Were you not tired? Taiho looked at Grathol with eyes that held 30 years of war. 30 years of fighting. 30 years of refusing to die. I was exhausted, he said. I was bleeding from a dozen wounds. I could barely stand. My armor was broken. My weapons were destroyed. I was fighting with a piece of metal I had torn from a destroyed vehicle. He paused. But I did not stop. I could not stop. My family was below the colony. My wife, my daughter. If I fell, they would die. So I kept fighting. I kept swinging. I kept moving forward, even when my body told me it was impossible. He touched the long scar on his chest, the one that ran from his collar to his hip. Kethmore gave me this wound. He thought it would kill me. It should have killed me. But I grabbed his blade with my bare hands as it went through me, and I pulled him close. And I drove my piece of metal through his throat. The hall was completely silent. He died looking at me, Taiho continued. Looking at this small, weak, broken human who had somehow done what no one else could do. I did not know what he felt in that moment. Perhaps confusion. Perhaps anger. Perhaps even respect. But I know what I felt. What did you feel? Grathol asked quietly. Taiho closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were filled with something that was not victory. I felt nothing, he said. I was too tired to feel anything. I just collapsed next to his body and waited to die. My wounds were fatal. There was no way I should have survived. But you did survive, Grathol said. Yes, my daughter found me. She was 7 years old. She dragged me to the medical station. It took her 2 hours. She would not leave me behind. She would not let me die. Taiho's voice cracked slightly, but he continued. The doctors said it was impossible. They said no human could survive such injuries. They said I would die on the table. But they tried anyway. They operated for 14 hours. They rebuilt half my body with synthetic parts. They gave me blood from 6 different donors. And somehow, against all odds, I survived. He looked around the great hall at all the watching aliens. That is how humans fight, he said. That is how humans win. Not because we are stronger. Not because we are faster. Not because we have better technology. We win because we do not stop. We win because we cannot stop. When everything is broken and hope is gone and death is certain, humans keep going anyway. High Luminary Kethvos spoke again. His voice was thoughtful now. You said your family was on Mirren Colony. I know that colony. My people, we destroyed it. We glassed the surface after the battle. Nothing survived. The words hung in the air. Teho did not look at Kethvos. He did not react with anger or hatred. He just nodded slowly. Yes, he said. You destroyed it. 3 days after I killed Kethmore, your fleet arrived. They did not know the battle was already over. They glassed the entire planet as punishment for our resistance. He was quiet for a moment. My wife died in the fires. My daughter died in the fires. Everyone I knew died in the fires. I was the only survivor. And that was only because the medical ship had already taken me away. The hall was so quiet that they could hear the hum of the station's engines. I woke up in a hospital on the other side of the galaxy. Taiho continued. Alone, my family was gone. My home was gone. My entire world was ash and glass. The doctors told me I would never fight again. They told me my body was too damaged, too broken. He touched his cracked armor. I was back in combat 6 months later. I have been fighting ever since. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward. She put her hand on Taiho's shoulder, a simple gesture of support. He looked at her and nodded slightly, accepting the comfort. You asked why I wear this armor, Taiho said to the hall. It is not because I cannot afford better. Humanity offered me the finest armor in our fleet. They offered me new equipment, new weapons, new everything. I refused. He ran his fingers along one of the cracks in his chest plate. I wear this armor because it reminds me. It reminds me of every battle, every wound, every time I should have died but did not. It reminds me of Mirren. It reminds me of my wife and daughter. It reminds me of why I keep fighting. He looked at the Valuri and the Morok and all the other species who had mocked him. You see cracks and think weakness. I see cracks and remember strength. You see damage and think failure. I see damage and remember survival. This armor is not broken. This armor is a record of everything I have overcome. Krathol was silent for a long time. Then, slowly, he raised his massive metal hand and placed it over his chest. It was a Maruk gesture of respect, rarely given to anyone outside their species. Human Taiho, he said formally, I withdraw my words. Your armor carries more honor than the finest Morok metal. You are a warrior worthy of respect. He bowed his head. And I thank you for giving my blood sire a warrior's death. He would have wanted nothing less. Taiho returned the gesture, placing his own hand over his chest. He fought with honor, he said. I will remember him. Something had changed in the hall. The mockery was gone. The laughter was gone. In their place was something new. Something that felt almost like respect. Ambassador Yuna looked at her guard. This broken soldier who had shown the galaxy what humanity really was. She had known he was special. She had not known how special. The summit would continue. There were still many days of talks ahead. Many arguments. Many negotiations. Many battles fought with words instead of weapons. But the humans would not be laughed at anymore. They had shown their scars, and the galaxy had finally seen the truth. The third day of the summit began differently. When the human delegation entered the Great Hall, no one laughed. No one whispered insults. No one pointed at the cracked armor of Lieutenant Taiho. Instead, they watched with something new in their eyes. Curiosity, caution, fear. Taiho walked in his usual place. 3 steps behind Ambassador Yuna. His armor was the same as always. Cracked, burned, held together with field repairs and emergency paste. But somehow, it looked different now. The damage that had seemed like weakness now seemed like proof. Proof of survival. Proof of strength. Proof that this human could not be killed. The Valori delegates kept their distance. They no longer glowed with bright, confident light. Their crystals were dimmer, more careful. High Luminary Kethvos had spent the night studying human records. What he had found had disturbed him greatly. The Morag had changed too. Grathel had shared his battle records with the other Morag commanders. The story of the human who killed Warlord Kethmor had spread through their ranks like fire. Now they looked at Taiho not with contempt, but with the respect that warriors give to other warriors. The morning session began with trade negotiations. Ambassador Yuna spoke clearly and confidently, presenting humanity's position on shipping routes and resource sharing. The other delegations listened more carefully than before. They still argued, still pushed back, still protected their own interests. But they no longer dismissed the humans as unimportant. During a break, something unexpected happened. A young Morok warrior approached the human delegation. He was smaller than Grathal, younger, his metal body not yet marked by battle. He stopped a respectful distance from Taiho and bowed his head. "Human warrior," he said, "I am Rock Thal. I am the grandson of Warlord Kethmor." Taiho looked at the young Morok. He saw no hatred in the warrior's red eyes, no desire for revenge, just curiosity and something that looked like hope. "I am honored to meet you," Taiho said. "My grandfather was the greatest warrior our family has ever produced," Rockthal continued. "For 300 years, no one could defeat him. We believed he was invincible. We believed he would live forever." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "When we learned that a human had killed him, we were angry. We wanted revenge. We thought it was impossible, that there must have been trickery or deception involved. How could a small, weak human defeat the greatest Morok warrior?" "There was no trickery," Taiho said quietly. "It was just battle. Long, hard, desperate battle." "I know," Rockthal said. "I have studied the records. I have seen the footage recovered from my grandfather's armor. I have watched the fight many times." He straightened his posture with pride. "You defeated him fairly, in honest combat, with nothing but determination and refusal to die. Among my people, there is no greater honor than to be defeated by such a warrior." Taiho was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Your grandfather was the strongest enemy I ever faced. There were moments when I was certain he would kill me. Many moments. If things had been slightly different, I would not be standing here today. But things were not different," Rockthal said. "You are standing here, and my grandfather is not. That is the truth of battle. That is the only truth that matters." He reached into a compartment in his armor and pulled out something small. A piece of metal, dark and old, with strange symbols carved into its surface. "This belonged to my grandfather," Rockthal said. "It is a Morok battle token, given to worthy opponents. He carried it for 300 years, waiting for someone worthy to receive it. He held it out to Taiho. He never gave it away. He never found anyone worthy. But I believe he would have given it to you, if he had survived, if he had known what kind of warrior you truly were." Taiho looked at the token. Such things were almost sacred to the Morok. To receive one was the highest honor a warrior could achieve. And here was a young Morok offering it to the human who had killed his grandfather. "I cannot accept this," Taiho said. "It belongs to your family, to your people. It belongs to the one who earned it," Rockthal replied. "Please, take it. Not as an insult to my grandfather's memory, but as a celebration of it. He lived as a warrior. He died as a warrior. You gave him the death he always wanted." Slowly, carefully, Taiho took the token. It was heavier than it looked. The metal was warm, almost alive. He could feel the history in it, the centuries of battles and victories and honors. "Thank you," he said. "I will carry it with pride." Rockthal bowed again, then walked back to the Morok delegation. The other Morok warriors watched him go. They did not criticize him for what he had done. They understood. Ambassador Yuna watched the exchange with amazement. In 20 years of diplomacy, she had never seen anything like it. A Morok giving a battle token to a human. A grandson honoring the man who killed his grandfather. This was the power of respect. This was what happened when beings looked past their differences and saw each other truly. The day continued with more negotiations. But something had changed in the Great Hall. The tension was different now. It was not the tension of predators and prey. It was the tension of equals, each side recognizing the strength of the other. During the afternoon session, High Luminary Kethvos approached the human delegation. He moved slowly, his crystal body pulsing with uncertain light. He was clearly uncomfortable, but he pushed forward anyway. "Ambassador Yuna," he said formally. "Lieutenant Taiho, I wish to speak with you. In private, if possible." Ambassador Yuna looked at him carefully. She did not trust the Valori. Her people had fought too many wars against them to trust easily. But she was also a diplomat. And diplomats spoke to everyone. "Very well," she said. "The private chamber behind the hall is available." They walked to the small room together. It was quiet there, away from the noise and crowds of the main hall. The walls were dark, and the only light came from Kethvos himself. "I owe you an apology," the High Luminary said. His voice was difficult, like the words caused him physical pain. "My people have mocked yours for many years. We have treated humans as inferior beings, as weak creatures not worthy of respect." He paused, his light flickering. "We were wrong." Ambassador Yuna said nothing. She waited for him to continue. "I have spent the last night studying human history," Kethvos said. "Not the history we Valori tell ourselves. The real history. The true records of your species and what you have survived." His voice became quieter. "Your species is only 300 years old in space. In that time, you have faced extinction 7 times. 7 times, other species have tried to destroy you completely. And 7 times, you have survived." He looked at Taiho. "The Valori are 10,000 years old. In all that time, we have never faced extinction. We have never been truly threatened. We have grown comfortable, arrogant. We believed our survival was guaranteed because of our superiority." His light dimmed with shame. "But your species has learned something we never learned. You have learned that survival is not guaranteed. You have learned that you must fight for every breath, every day, every moment. You have learned that being broken is not the end. It is just the beginning of becoming stronger." Taiho spoke for the first time. "Luminary, what happened at Nearing Colony was a crime," Kethvos interrupted. "A crime that my people committed against yours. I cannot undo it. I cannot bring back the dead. But I can acknowledge what was done. And I can promise that it will never happen again." He reached into his crystal body and pulled out something. It looked like a piece of glass, but it glowed with inner light. A Valori memory crystal, containing recordings of everything the Valori had ever done. "This contains the truth about Mirren," Kethvos said. "The truth about all the attacks against humans. The real numbers. The real reasons. Everything my people have tried to hide." He held it out to Ambassador Yuna. "I am giving this to you as an act of good faith. Share it with your people. Let them know the truth. And let us begin to build something new between our species. Something based on respect instead of contempt." Ambassador Yuna took the crystal carefully. It was warm in her hands, pulsing with Valori memories. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you doing this now?" After everything? Kethvos looked at Taiho, at the cracked armor, at the scars visible on the human's hands and face. Because I finally understand, he said. I looked at your soldier's broken armor and saw weakness. I looked at his scars and saw damage. But now I see the truth. Those cracks and scars are not signs of what you have lost. They are signs of what you have overcome. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. The Valori are ancient and powerful, but we have never truly been tested. We do not know if we could survive what humans have survived. And that, he paused, that is terrifying. He left the room, his light fading as he walked away. Ambassador Yuna looked at the crystal in her hands. It was evidence. Proof of crimes that her people had long suspected but never been able to confirm. With this, she could demand justice. She could demand compensation. She could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. Ambassador, Taiho said quietly, what will you do with it? Yuna thought for a long moment. She thought about the dead on Mirren. She thought about her own family, who had lost people in the Valori Wars. She thought about justice and revenge and all the things that seemed so important. The final day of the summit arrived. The Great Hall of Station Meridian was full once again. All the delegations had gathered for the closing ceremony. Deals had been made. Agreements had been signed. Old enemies had found new ground to stand on together. But everyone knew that the most important thing that happened at this summit had nothing to do with trade routes or border disputes. The most important thing was a human soldier with cracked armor, who had changed everything by simply standing still and telling the truth. Ambassador Yuna took her place at the human table. A delegation stood behind her, including Ambassador Do-Wan from the upper gallery, who had come down to join them. And of course, 3 steps behind Yuna stood Lieutenant Taiho. His armor was the same as always, cracked, burned, held together by repairs and wool. But no one looked at it with mockery anymore. Now they looked at it with understanding. High Luminary Kethvos rose to speak. As the leader of the most powerful delegation, he had the right to give the closing address. Delegates of the coalition, he began, his musical voice filling the hall. We have spent 5 days together. We have argued and debated and negotiated. We have made progress on many issues. But I believe the most important progress we made had nothing to do with our agenda. He looked directly at the human delegation. We learned something this week. Something that many of us did not want to learn. We learned that we were wrong about humanity. The hall was silent. The Valori did not often admit mistakes. This was unprecedented. For 50 years, we have treated humans as lesser beings, Kethvos continued. We have laughed at their technology. We have mocked their size. We have dismissed their culture. We believed that our ancient civilizations were superior in every way. He paused, his crystal body dimming with genuine humility. We were fools. A murmur ran through the hall. The other species were shocked to hear a Valori luminary use such harsh words about his own people. This week, I watched a human soldier stand in this very hall and show us what strength really means. He showed us his scars, his wounds, his damage. He showed us the evidence of a lifetime of suffering that would have destroyed any Valori. And he was not ashamed. He was proud. Kethvos looked at Taiho with something close to awe. We Valori believe that perfection is strength. We polish our crystals. We hide our flaws. We pretend that we have never been hurt, never been broken, never been afraid. But this human showed me that our perfection is not strength at all. It is just a different kind of weakness. He turned back to the full assembly. True strength is not about never being broken. True strength is about being broken and continuing anyway. True strength is about falling down 1,000 times and getting up 1,001. The humans understand this. They live this. And we should learn from them. Grathel rose from the Morag table. His massive metal body moved with careful respect. I wish to add my voice to the luminary's words, he said. His deep voice echoed through the hall. The Morag have fought humans for 30 years. We have killed many of them. They have killed many of us. But I did not truly understand them until this week. He looked at Taiho. This human killed my blood sire, Warlord Kethmore. For many years, I hated humans because of this. I believed that somehow, through trickery or luck, a weak species had stolen our greatest warrior from us. He shook his massive head. I was wrong. There was no trickery. There was no luck. There was only a warrior who refused to die. A warrior who kept fighting when any sane being would have stopped. A warrior who valued something more than his own survival. Grathol placed his metal hand over his chest in the Morag gesture of highest respect. The Morag respects strength, and I have never seen greater strength than the kind this human carries. Not in his muscles, not in his weapons, but in his spirit, in his heart, in his refusal to surrender. He bowed to Taiho. From this day forward, the Morag will no longer consider humans as enemies. We will consider them as what they truly are, warriors worthy of our respect. One by one, other delegations rose to speak. The small floating creatures who had called Taiho broken now praised his endurance. The tall six-legged beings who had ignored the humans now acknowledged their strength. Even the most hostile species in the galaxy found words of respect. Finally, Ambassador Yuna rose. The hall fell silent to hear her. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for your words and your recognition. But I want you to understand something important." She looked around the great hall at all the gathered species. Lieutenant Taiho is not special among humans. He is not unique. He is not the only one of our kind who carries scars and damage and continues fighting anyway. Every human alive today is descended from survivors. Every one of us carries the memory of extinction in our blood. She gestured to her. Delegation. Ambassador Dowan lost his entire family in the First Valuri War. He rebuilt his life and dedicated it to making peace. My assistant Ji-Woo survived a Morag attack that killed everyone else on her ship. She floated in space for 3 days before rescue came. And me. I grew up on a colony that was destroyed when I was 12 years old. I walked through burning streets to find safety. I still dream about the fire sometimes. Her voice was steady but heavy with emotion. We are all Lieutenant Taiho. Every human you have ever met. Every human you will ever meet. We are a species of survivors. We are a species that has been broken and repaired so many times that we have forgotten how to stay broken. She looked at Taiho with pride. You asked why he wears that cracked armor. The answer is simple. He wears it because it is human armor. Not the metal and synthetic materials, but the damage, the repairs, the refusal to be replaced with something shiny and new. That armor is human because it has survived. Just like us. She sat down. The hall was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The weight of her words hung in the air like something physical. Then, slowly, Taiho stepped forward. Everyone watched him. This small, scarred human in his cracked armor. This warrior who had killed a warlord. This survivor who had lost everything and kept going anyway. I have one thing to add, he said quietly. His voice was soft, but it carried through the entire hall. Something that I hope you will remember long after this summit ends. He touched the cracks in his chest plate. You looked at my armor and saw weakness. You looked at my scars and saw damage. But now you see the truth. You see what these marks really mean. They mean that I am still here. They mean that everything that tried to break me failed. He looked at each delegation in turn. Humanity is not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest. We are not the most advanced. We are small and fragile and easy to hurt. But we have something that none of you have. We have the absolute refusal to stay down. He touched his heart. You can burn us. We will heal. You can break us. We will repair. You can kill us. And those of us who survive will remember. We will learn. We will come back stronger. This is not arrogance. This is not a threat. This is just who we are. He was quiet for a moment. My daughter was 7 years old when she dragged my broken body to the medical station. She was small and weak and scared, but she did not stop. She did not give up. She pulled me through the burning ruins for 2 hours because she refused to let me die. His voice cracked slightly. She died 3 days later when the Valuri glassed our colony. But her spirit, her refusal to surrender, that lives on. In me. In every human. In every child who learns to walk by falling down and getting up again. He stood straight and tall, despite the weight of his armor and his memories. So mock our cracked armor if you wish. Laugh at our scars. Dismiss our technology and our size and our youth. But remember this, we will still be here when your laughter stops. We will still be standing when your empires fall. We will still be surviving, healing, and growing long after you have forgotten why you thought we were weak. He bowed to the assembly. Thank you for listening. And then he stepped back to his place. 3 steps behind Ambassador Yuna. Just a guard. Just a soldier. Just a human doing his job. But the hall would never forget him. The summit ended. The delegations departed. Ships left Station Meridian and scattered across the galaxy, carrying their passengers home to distant worlds and ancient civilizations. But they all carried something new with them. A story, a memory, an understanding of what humanity truly was taught in the years that followed. Things changed. The wars slowed down. The mockery stopped. Species that had once dismissed humans as inferior began to treat them with caution and respect. The cracked armor of Lieutenant Taiho became a symbol throughout the galaxy, a reminder that damage was not weakness, that survival was the greatest strength of all. Taiho himself continued to serve. He guarded Ambassador Yuna through a dozen more summits. He trained younger soldiers in the art of endurance. He shared his story when asked and stayed silent when silence was enough. His armor remained cracked. He never replaced it, and everyone who saw it understood. This was a human. This was what humans were made of. Not perfection. Not invincibility. Not ancient power or advanced technology. Just a simple, terrifying refusal to stop getting back up. The galaxy had many powerful species. Species of crystal and metal. Species of fire and ice. Species that had conquered worlds and built empires. But now they all knew the truth.